In this video, I will answer every question, uncover every secret, and solve every mystery in the most mysterious episode in Doctor Who's long history. 73 yards. And I've got proof. So strap in, folks, because we're in for a big one. What's up, everybody? Did somebody say unsolved mystery? We're back, folks. Doctor Who Series 14 just released its best episode yet. And since my latest review went out yesterday, I have received a lot of comments asking me to do a follow-up where I explain the ending. And I mean a lot of comments. Thank you as always for all of the support. The community reaction is coming soon. But what that did was get me digging deeper and deeper, dissecting every scene, every line. And what I found is some of the most intriguing storytelling I have ever seen before in a Doctor Who episode. But first, let me explain to you the full story of Doctor Who 73 Yards. With a notable lack of title sequence, the Doctor and Ruby arrive in Wales on a cliff top, right by the edge of the sea. The Doctor celebrates his love of Wales and Ruby comments that she'd been here twice before. The Doctor then mentions a poor example of the Welsh, Roger ap Gwilym, a prime minister who almost ended the world in a nuclear holocaust. But he is interrupted when he steps on and breaks a fairy circle. The Doctor immediately regrets this, but Ruby, as always, doesn't take it too seriously. She picks up 2 scrolls and reads them aloud. I miss you and rest in peace, Mad Jack. And when she looks back, the Doctor's gone. The TARDIS is locked and a strange woman appears 73 yards away. No matter how far Ruby walks, the woman is always with her, behind her, in front of her, to the side, and always 73 yards away. On her way to a local town, Ruby runs into a strange hitchhiker played by Susan Twist, which I am sure is just a coincidence. Nothing to see here. Oh, she's off. Well, I'm sure that was nothing. Anyway, Ruby continues on, deeply unsettled, and ends up in this unfriendly pub full of assholes. They take the mick out of her for no reason, because they're assholes.
But Welsh people!
But there are things to note about this scene. Number 1, the Coca-Cola is £5. This, on the face of it, is ridiculous, in the same manner that the cup of tea for £0.50 was ridiculous in The Devil's Cord.
That's £0.50, tar very much.
How much?
£0.50 in old money is about the equivalent to £6 or £7, so that for a cup of tea and £5 for a Coke are crazy overpriced. Number 2, the old lady mentions semper distans, Latin for always distant. And number 3, most noticeably of all, the old lady tells Ruby a story about the spiteful one who walks through the gaps. This land is a powerful place. The circle held a spell, and that spell is now broken. These lands are steeped in blood. The charm was designed to keep Mad Jack away. The cliff tops are a boundary between the land and the sea, a liminal space where rules are suspended. Now that the circle is broken, Mad Jack is unbound. And then it turns out to be a joke. I'm sure none of that is important. Ruby tries to go back to the TARDIS, but the Doctor is gonzo. She is then kicked out from staying at the pub because that geezer who spoke to the old lady 73 yards away went completely insane and now hates her. So Ruby goes home and talks with her mum, who has the genius idea of calling Ruby on the phone while she goes up to the woman and see what she's talking about, what she looks like. Mrs. Flood comes in, goes away, and guess what? The plan didn't work. What a surprise! But don't forget this. Carla describes the woman as looking like what she is and being what she is. What does that mean? We don't know, because Carla runs away and then completely turns on Ruby, disowning her, changing the locks, and even putting out an injunction against her. We then cut to a year later where Ruby gets in contact with Kate Lethbridge Stewart, who says 2 very important things. Well, technically 3, but one of them is probably just a hint for a spin-off that may or may not happen. Anyway, the important thing she mentions are this line about inventing the rules to make something inexplicable work, and this. Very odd, but but very important line. I think this timeline might be suspended along your event. Remember this for later. Beep, beep, beep. Important alert, important alert. Remember this for later. Ruby also says some interesting things. The old woman has a perception filter, just like the TARDIS does. Kate Stewart theorizes about whether landing the TARDIS on top of the circle may have had an effect. Ruby says she doesn't want to go on a boat or a plane because she fears that if she becomes disconnected from the woman, that maybe she'll die or it'll die. And most importantly of all, no matter where you take a photograph from or how high quality the camera, the woman always looks like she's 73 yards away. Sadly, Kate Stewart and the rest of UNIT are cursed, useless as always. They leave Ruby alone, and we then witness the most depressing happy montage of all time as we skip through 20 years of Ruby's terrible life until she is now 40. And while zoning out on a terrible date, overhears a news story about an up-and-coming politician, Roger Ap Gwilliam, or as he says was his old nickname, Mad Jack. Ruby then knows what she has to do and infiltrates the Albion party to get close to him. After months of efforts, it all climaxes before Roger's big speech in Cardiff, where it is very likely he plans to launch a nuclear bomb and pretty much kill the entire world. Also, he's abusing this poor woman. Overall, he's a pretty terrible guy. And Ruby stops him by positioning her demon lady just close enough for him to notice her and subsequently be driven completely insane, resigning and leaving government forever. But the nightmare doesn't stop. 40 years later, Ruby returns to the TARDIS, still where it has been after all these years. And Ruby tells the TARDIS that she never found any answers, it never snowed again, but that she had finally found the answer to why the woman is with her. She says it's because she hopes. She dares to hope. Okay, put a pin in that. And in the final sequence of the episode, we cut ahead to Ruby's deathbed, where the woman finally gets closer to her, getting closer and closer as Ruby flatlines. And in death, she is transported all the way back to where it all began. She apologizes for taking so long, saying that it's taken her all these years. And the episode begins again, but with one key difference. Ruby says she has been to Wales 3 times, and the spectre of her future self warns her.
What, over there?
Don't step.
Where?
Don't step. And she passes that warning on to the Doctor. He stops himself just before breaking the circle and avoids the events of the episode entirely. The woman disappears, and the Doctor and Ruby continue on, with the Doctor asking Ruby when the 3rd time she went to Wales was, and Ruby replying, now. Okay, lots of questions, lots of theories, but before we dive in, let's ask one key question. One question, frankly, more important than any other. What is 73 Yards about? What is the story? What are the themes of the story? Not the events, but what does it represent? What does it mean? Now, in my opinion, after watching the episode and watching it again and again and again, I believe the episode to be about abandonment, isolation, and loss. I think the theme of abandonment has been key so far in this series, with both Ruby and the Doctor being orphans, and Ruby in particular being desperate to know where she comes from. Everyone the old Ruby talks to running away and abandoning Ruby, I don't think that's any accident. The reason the episode is called 73 Yards is very intentional. Russell T Davies measured it himself. It is the exact distance away from someone with 20/20 vision where their facial features become blurry and unrecognizable. You are always with yourself, but you don't always know yourself. So I believe 73 Yards is a tale first and foremost of abandonment, then self-worth, and then acceptance. But let's analyze why. The fun bit! I think it's time I break down the 3 main pieces of evidence I will be using to solve, in quotation marks, this episode, because I think all of the pieces are in place for us. The episode itself will be the primary source, and then we will turn to the few scarce comments in the behind the scenes Doctor Who Unleashed, and then the even scarcer teasers that Russell T Davies turned us in the direction of. Let's start with them. Russell T Davies directs us to the scrolls at the beginning. What do they mean? He calls out the second, rest in peace Mad Jack, but if you notice in the actual episode, the spell that makes the Doctor go away is the first one, is when Ruby reads out, I miss you. If you look in the background, as the camera pans around, the TARDIS's lights go out too. The Doctor and the TARDIS disappear, taken away by the Fae. I believe this ties into Kate Stewart's line later too, the timeline having been suspended along Ruby's event. I believe these 2 spells are the main inciting incidents for the plot, but we'll get back to that later. Let's jump ahead to the pub scene, because I believe a lot of people are 100% missing the point here. Everything this woman says is true. Everything about Mad Jack, about the liminal space, the powerful lands, the spiteful one, it's all true. And something I want to make specifically clear is that just because they were pretending does not make it untrue. You see, as previously established in the series, this is now a world, thanks to the Toymaker, where fairy tales are true. Folklore is true. This scene, this massive exposition dump that just so happens to directly explain all of our questions, should not be entirely thrown out because these assholes say it was just superstition. In this universe, superstitions are real. And speaking of which, the boundary between the land and the sea. A liminal space where the walls are weak. Sound familiar? Well, it should, because it is the exact explanation given in World Blue Yonder to explain how the Toymaker entered our world. The Doctor spread salt at the edge of the universe, the boundary. This invoking of superstition led to terrible consequences. And if you think the link to World Blue Yonder is a stretch, which you shouldn't, the imagery of the TARDIS by the sea is a direct homage to the Doctor's monologue in World Blue Yonder, where he describes the TARDIS all alone by the sea. I even called this in my reaction to the original trailer for season 1. And in retrospect, it suddenly makes a lot of sense. The spiteful one, Mad Jack, is very clearly linked to Roger Ap Gwilliam. Roger's speech about knowing how it feels to be persecuted ties in directly to the woman's talkings of torture chambers and being steeped in blood. But of course he's spiteful too, which leads to his xenophobia and desire to nuke the world. Because he's fucked up. But why? The Doctor mentions Roger Ap Gwilliam by name before even stepping into the circle, meaning that it's not like he came into this world when the Doctor left. Originally, my idea was that the Doctor traded souls with him, a soul for a soul. But now, I've rewatched the scene and it's a lot more simple. Mad Jack, as an entity, was unrelated to Roger Ap Gwilliam, but was able to possess him because the Doctor mentioned him by name. He mentioned him by name when he stepped into the circle. He invoked his name as he broke the spell. I miss you. And the Doctor's gone. And rest in peace, Mad Jack. You're never meant to read the charms. So Ruby has made a right old mess. She stumbled into this circle and not treated it with the respect or dignity it deserves. And so she is punished, and she must atone. A lifetime of atonement, which she does so by stopping Roger Ap Gwilliam. If you want my simple explanation for 73 yards, here it is. The Doctor and Ruby accidentally step on a fairy circle. This is messing with very delicate magic, and as a consequence, the Doctor is whisked away, and Ruby is cursed. The old lady represents Ruby's soul being bound to the circle, and she can only be let free if she commits a good deed to counteract her bad one. Ruby stops Roger Ap Gwilliam, and at the end of her life, she is set free from the curse because of her good deed. And where is my evidence? Well, it's right out of the horse's mouth. I'll let my buddy speak for himself.
Something profane has happened with the disturbance of that fairy circle. There's been a lack of respect for the Doctor, who's very respectful of alien cultures and alien life forms and alien mythologies. He's just walked through something very, very powerful. So something's gone wrong, and something is just corrected. It's like Ruby has to spend a life of penitence in which she eventually does something good, which brings the whole thing full circle, which kind of forgives them in the end.
And I think that's pretty cut and dry. So what did the old lady say to make people run away? Why did we return to the beginning at the end? Who is Susan Twist? All that and more will be explained in part 2. Hell yeah, I'm ending on a cliffhanger. I know, shameless, but this video was already getting long enough and I wanted to get it out in a reasonable time. This video was originally all one script and at first meant to be one big video, but I didn't want anyone to have to wait any longer. Trust me, I've spent the last 2 days straight working on this. So tune in the next couple of days. And don't worry, you won't have to wait long. Part 2 will be out before Dot and Bubble airs at the latest. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the video. This month has been my biggest ever on the channel and I just wanted to give a massive thank you to all of you who have left nice comments recently and supported the channel. As of recording, we are 200 subscribers away from hitting my end of the year goal of 15,000 subscribers and I can't be grateful enough. You all are amazing and I can't wait to share part 2 with you as soon as possible. So stay locked in and thank you to the channel members. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one.